So very good. We've gotten comfortable with OSGi and all of its features as well as its benefits. Now let's see how Liferay and OSGi come together. So in this next section here in chapter 3, let's take a look at what the main objectives of this chapter is going to be. So we know how OSGi works. Now we're going to see how does OSGi and Liferay come together, right? How are they going to be integrated with one another so that when we create our applications in Liferay, we'll see how they work. We'll take a look and see our Liferay module projects. So when we create Liferay bundles, they're going to be called Liferay module projects. So a bundle created in Liferay is going to be called the Liferay module. So I'll try to be explicit here. OSGi bundle, Liferay module. Right. And we're going to take a look at this thing called Liferay workspace. This is going to be our main development environment that we're going to be working with. So Liferay's OSGi container. So Liferay has an embedded OSGi container within it. So Liferay runs on OSGi and Liferay has an OSGi container. So all of the applications that we're going to create in the Liferay world are going to be OSGi applications as well, right? So any sort of OSGi application we create, we can also run it within Liferay if we wanted to. So we've seen this diagram before of the OSGi runtime. So you have your JVM or your Java runtime, and then the OSGi runtime within it. Now, integrating Liferay into the mix, you have your JVM, which is going to be running the servlet container, or Tomcat. Within Tomcat, we're going to be running Liferay, and then within Liferay, we're going to have an OSGi runtime. When we create Liferay applications, they're going to be made up of OSGi bundles. So components and services within Liferay, again, making the connection between what we just learned and Liferay. So we took all of the concepts of components and we integrated it within Liferay. So what that means is all of the services that existed within Liferay in the past have been re-implemented as OSGi services. So we're going to see a lot of components when we're dealing with Liferay services. So let's take a look. So if you've developed portlets in the past, this is going to look very different than what you've done before. Right? If you haven't, then of course, this is going to look brand new. But when we're creating something like a portlet within Liferay, we're going to create it as a component. That's also the same for when we create something like a form field. That too will also be created as a component. And things even unrelated to what we've done before in the development world, like an audience targeting rule, that too can also be implemented as a component. So long story short is a lot of what we're going to do in this course in the backend is going to be heavily dependent on OSGi. We're going to be creating a lot of components and we're going to be seeing the differences from how we did things before in the past and how they look today in the future. Now, when we're doing a lot of backend development, as we discussed, it's going to be very similar, or in other words, we're going to be following a very consistent pattern. And this is what the pattern is typically going to look like. So first things first is we need to figure out what we want to do, right? Pretty straightforward there. From there, we're going to create a Java class. Now, whatever we're trying to do is typically going to have either an interface or a superclass that's going to help us do that. So if we're creating a portlet, right, there's a superclass that goes with that, right? If we're creating a specific service, we're going to be implementing a specific interface, for example. So identify what we want to do, create a Java class, and then from there, we're going to find the interface or superclass that helps us achieve what we're trying to do. Once we're implementing or extending it, we're going to make it a component just using the @component annotation. Within the @component annotation, we're able to set properties and attributes So we'll specify those elements that we need. Finally, we'll then implement or override the necessary methods to achieve our functionality. And then if we need to make any service calls, right, we'll instantiate the service object using the @reference annotation, asking the service registry to get us a reference of an OSGi service to implement our API. So to summarize everything once again, all of the concepts that we learned in the OSGi basics are going to be very applicable as we create things within the backend of Liferay. We have seen how the OSGi container and Liferay interact. We've also seen a very consistent pattern that we're able to use as we develop OSGi-based applications within Liferay. So we'll go ahead, we'll take a look at some of the other aspects of Liferay and OSGi.